Hello and welcome to the Outdoorsy Educator podcast, the show where curiosity meets the open road. I'm your host Alasdair, and I invite you to join me as we explore the world through travel, nature, getting outside, and the power of learning. Each episode, we will dive into stories from inspiring educators, adventurers, and global citizens who are reshaping what it means to learn, whether it's in a classroom, on a mountain trail, or even halfway across the world. From backpacking trips that change your perspective to educational journeys that transform communities, we will cover it all. So pack your curiosity, lace up your boots, and let's discover how the world teaches us, one step, one story, one adventure at a time. Since 1970, Whole Earth Provision Company has been the Texas outfitter for side quests big and small. Whether you're gearing up for the open road, chasing a trailhead, or hunting for that just right gift, they have got you covered. Think durable clothing, shoes that will actually go the distance, gear that's road trip ready, and books, puzzles, and toys that will spark wonder at every age. You'll find Whole Earth in Dallas, Austin, Houston, and San Antonio, or anytime online at wholeearthprovision.com. And hey, because you're rolling with the Outdoorsy Educator podcast, here's a little extra love. Use the code OutdoorsyyEDU for 20% off your next adventure at Whole Earth. And on this week's episode of the Outdoorsy Educator podcast, we have Melissa Rodway. Melissa, how are you today?
I'm wonderful, Alasdair. How are you?
Doing very well. We're quite far apart geographically. You're up in Toronto, I'm down here in Dallas. So it's probably a bit chillier where you are than it is here.
Yeah, today actually there were signs of winter coming, pretty cold and windy and rainy. So time to get those snow tires on. I guess you can't relate to that.
No, nobody down here has snow tires. I've seen the occasional sort of the chains that people will put on their tire, but that's a once in 10 years sort of situation. When ice is here, people tend to panic and not drive, and
Oh yeah, sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just not done. It's just
Just
not.
not done.
Yeah,
Nope.
it's just not done. So I used to sort of tease people a little bit coming from a colder climate, but really, it's nobody. I mean, you can't try and drive in it if you never get it. So
Oh yeah, totally. Do you miss that? I
there's,
know you're from Scotland. Do you miss colder weather
I
sometimes?
do, I do.
Yeah.
As you'll be very aware, down here it's brutally hot in the summer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's almost like I describe it as reverse seasonal depression,
Yeah.
where it's just so hot you're stuck inside, and that
Yeah.
doesn't really suit me very well, being stuck inside a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
I like
Yeah.
to be outside, and if you're cold, you can always put more clothes on. But if you get too hot, you get arrested at some point for taking off too much. So, it is what it is. But this is a nice time of year. It's a little chilly in the morning and at night, and then just glorious during the day.
Oh,
So
good.
we're in a nice couple of weeks, I think, coming up.
Good. Good for you.
Yes, but I'm excited to talk to you. It seems like you have done a lot of traveling, which has found its way into writing a book called The People You Meet, which I'm excited to really hear about this journey. But why don't we kind of go back to the beginning? Why don't we start off with who you are, where do you come from, what do you do?
Very nice. Okay. So I am Canadian. I am from a small town originally outside of Toronto called Port Perry. It's about an hour and a bit northeast, but I've been in Toronto for the last, I don't know, over 20 years, I guess, but I've lived in various parts of Canada. I was in Montreal and Victoria, Jasper in the mountains, which you'd probably really like in the Rockies
Mm-hmm.
there, and a little place called Barrie, and now I'm here. So basically, yeah, I have like a regular 9 to 5 job in Toronto, which is bittersweet. But when I can work around that, I do. I try to travel as much as I can. I was very lucky. In 2023, I took a year off through my work. I had a leave and did some really great traveling then. And the book that you're talking about was from a time when I actually quit my job when I was 35, and I took some time out and did some traveling then too. So there's always travel on my radar, and it's a big part of something that I like to do. It's just if
Hmm.
you get the bug, it doesn't go away.
Right. No matter how much you travel, when you've got it, you've got it. And
Exactly.
that's just it. Well, we'll get into the book shortly because I've deliberately not read it. I know a little bit about what it's about, but I didn't want to dive too far into it. I wanted to talk to you about it. But when it comes to travel, tell me some of the places that you've been that you've loved, maybe places that surprised you.
Oh, that's a really good question. I mean, I like everywhere that I go, but I am a big fan of Latin American countries, like Spanish
Hmm.
speaking places. So Central America, I absolutely love Nicaragua, Guatemala, Belize, that part of the world. I also love South America. I've seen a lot of that. Um, I was in Jordan right before the pandemic, and I
Wow.
loved Jordan. That was very different for me, and I had never really planned to go there, but it just sort of grabbed a hold of me, and I decided I had to go. So that was pretty cool. Spent a little bit of time in Nepal. My book is from a trip through Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, and China. So I've seen that part of the world. I have not been to Africa yet, Alasdair. So
Right.
that's on my to-do list. So yeah.
I love it. I've got a friend who just landed in Nepal 2 days ago
Uh,
to do some hiking, and just I've been following her on Instagram, and I mean, just it just looks. I know everywhere can look wonderful online, you try not to have the sort of rose-tinted glasses on, but it really does look like an incredible place to visit.
Yeah, it's really, really beautiful. Unfortunately, I tried to do the Annapurna circuit, but there had been a massive avalanche, so I my hiking got veered in another place. But even still, it's so beautiful, Nepal. So yeah, recommend it.
And I've always been drawn to Canada. I've been there twice, but it was really in the same trip. It was a couple of weeks apart, and only to the Toronto and the Windsor corridor up to that area. So it's definitely a bucket list of mine, and it seems very idyllic. Every time I watch a show about it, I speak to somebody, it just looks like a wonderful place for the outdoors. You've lived in various places in Canada. Um, is there anywhere that stands out to you as you'd like to go back and live again? Anywhere that surprised you? I think our listeners would love to hear a little bit about the different cultures within Canada, especially you mentioned Montreal.
So I'm a very proud Canadian, and yes, I love this country. It's very beautiful, and there is so much to explore for sure. It's a magical place, and it's too big, probably in some ways. It's so hard to get around, but so certainly the West Coast is a given. It's very, very beautiful. I lived in the Rockies for about 3, 4 years when I was younger, 18 to 21, and I was living a wild and crazy life out there. Certainly very beautiful for hikers and any kind of activity they're into. But my heart lies in the East Coast. I lived in Montreal for a couple of years for school. I spent 5 weeks living in Quebec City in 2023, and I fell in love with Quebec City. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. Of course, it's fairly touristy, but
Hmm.
you do feel like you're in Europe. There's still a lot of French spoken there. And if you're an outdoorsy person, I was there in the winter because I love winter. So my goal was to be a complete winter person. So everything there is less than an hour to do, whereas in Toronto, that's impossible sometimes. So
Right.
everything's convenient, but even within the city itself, there's tons of like cross country skiing and skating and just being in winter, being in nature. But there's other things that are a 20-minute drive that are just mind blowing. So that I love. And just the East Coast in general, it has a real vibe to it. It's got a real culture of the Maritimes. Well, some of your ancestors obviously came from there to the Maritimes,
Yes.
Alistair. So you can
Yep.
imagine the music, the personalities, the stories. They're really good storytellers. There's a lot of seafood. I was just in Prince Edward Island, which is the
Hmm.
smallest province, and it's absolutely stunning, magical. So the East Coast is very beautiful with the hikes and the coastal scenery. So I do love that part of Canada for sure.
I love that. There's two things that jumped out at me. I'm not sure if she's on the public television or anywhere there, but she's a staple here in the States. Samantha Brown.
Oh,
I don't know if you've ever heard of her, but she's on public television here and just has traveled the world for 2 decades. And I didn't know anything about Quebec City until a couple of years ago, where she did a winter special there. And man alive, how more people, including myself, didn't know about this place.
it's
Like it
magical.
is quite something.
It's quite something. And when I was there, I mean, my goal was to just be outside as much as humanly possible, and I achieved that goal. But something really cool that I did there was called ice canoeing. So I don't know if Samantha Brown showed you this.
She did. I don't think so.
So I'll tell you quickly. Basically, this is a sport that has been in Quebec for a long time. I'm sure I can't remember at this moment. I don't think it started as a sport. It was probably a way of life, to be honest, but it's
Right.
become a sport now, and they compete around the province and internationally. But basically, you're in a very large canoe. They give you spikes that you put on the bottom of your boots. They give you knee pads. They give you some wetsuit material that basically comes up to just past your knees. And I think I mentioned an oar with a spike on it. Maybe I didn't say that. So basically, you're in a boat with 5 or 6 other people. You're in the St. Lawrence River, which is full of ice flows. So it's all ice and water, and it's like thick, thick ice. So you're in this boat, and if you're trapped in the ice, what you're doing is everyone has got one knee in the boat and the other foot is like got the spikes on it, and you're pushing, pushing, pushing off all these ice flows to keep propelling the boat forward. As soon
Wow.
as you hit open water, everyone does a 180, jumps in the boat, and starts paddling like as much as they can in the water. And if there's ice that happens to get in your way, you chop it up with the paddle. As soon as you hit another ice flow, you're out again, pushing the boat, like getting any grip that you can off the ice to get to open water is the most exciting thing and scary thing I've ever done. So if you get to Quebec City, that's one thing you must do.
I'm going to look that up on YouTube when we're done because that just sounds wild. Well, you
Yeah.
may not have heard of Samantha Brown, but one person, they'll take away your passport if you don't agree. Eugene Levy, the actor, right?
Oh,
Canadian, one of Canada's dearest sons.
the legend.
Um, I was just, again, just coincidentally this week, I watched the season finale of his series, The Reluctant Traveler,
Ah,
which is
yes.
just, it's so, because I love it. Like he's just a wonderful presenter, actor. I'm sure he's a lovely guy too. But the final episode, he was in Vancouver, which
Mm,
always strikes me as somewhere great to visit, but I could never afford to live.
no.
My
Yeah.
understanding is it's very expensive out there. But
Yeah.
he and Michael Bublé spent a few days together doing all sorts of just wonderful things. I mean, it looks just absolutely idyllic.
Ah, that's
I've been
nice.
up to Seattle, been up there, so I've almost made it up to BC, but not quite.
Well, one day, yeah, there's so much to see in Canada. It's just yeah, there's hidden gems everywhere.
I've got it's sort of on the bucket list. I don't really know why, but the backstory is I collect license plates, number plates off of old cars and things, and I've got several hundred. To me, they're little pieces of art, and some of them are really quite beautiful. And years ago, I said, I've got all the United States, one from each state. I'm going to get every Canadian territory, and then stumbled across Nunavut, which has
Mm.
polar bears for plates. And I
Hmm.
thought that seems like my kind of something about that I like a lot. And I know it's way out there. It is truly off the beaten track.
Yeah.
But for some reason that place calls to me just to visit and see how people live up there.
Oh, definitely. Me too. I have not been, but I think it's a must for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's truly wild country and
Very wild. Yeah.
yeah, I'd love to just peer into that world for a little while. But yeah, lots of people love to travel, but you've done something with this. Am I right in saying that you weren't a radio show host and it turned into a podcast?
Yeah, so I started this radio show, I can't remember. I would say like 2017, I think.
Hmm.
So yes, I started that with a community radio station, so with the University of Toronto, and it was an adventure travel podcast. And that, or sorry, it was a radio show. And then as the years progressed, it kind of started morphing more into a podcast. And I really loved it. As you can relate, you meet all these amazing people. You learn about different parts of the world that you never heard of. You hear about these incredible adventures, and you just develop an awesome community. So
Right,
I loved it. I had to put it on hold because of my book, and I also have a full-time job. So
right.
but yeah, that, and I had really cool people. There was a guy on my show. If you've not heard of him, you should look him up. His name is Mario Rigby. He's from Toronto, and he literally walked across Africa for 2.5 years. There was another guy on my show who cycled home from China to Toronto, across like 42 countries, I think. I mean, obviously, there was a plane in there at one point, but
Right.
it's not all Canadians, but just really, really interesting dynamic stories, of people doing some pretty spectacular stuff.
That's what I find. I mean, this podcast was born out of I love to travel, I love hiking, I love camping, and I work in education. I thought about how do I combine those. But like most things in the world, I find it comes down to people and their stories. You can watch travel shows telling you about, I don't know, the Vatican and the Colosseum and what to do in Rome, and that's very interesting. But let me hear the stories of the people.
Yes.
And that's truly what I found I love. I love to hear
Yes.
and how these stories have changed people.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
I'll tell you quickly because I should have mentioned this earlier and I don't want to forget. But speaking of people, so I went to Toronto, your adopted hometown, and it's been about 20 years. And I was, poor student kind of thing, backpacking, and I've made it to the CN Tower. I don't quite remember the scenario, but I think it cost a little bit to go all the way up to the top, and just didn't have the money or wasn't willing to spend it. So I was sitting at the bottom with stereotypically the big backpack with all the patches on it and a Scotland flag, and this guy came up to me. I wish I'd stayed in touch with him, and he said, "Oh, you backpacking?" As I'm sitting there with my massive pack. And yes, and we got talking, and he said, "Well, I work in the marketing department for the Leafs. Do you want to come and see inside the stadium and see the trophy cabinets?" And
Wow.
I knew nothing about hockey, of course, but I'm like, I'm in, 100%.
Yeah.
So he took me in, and he just told me that when he traveled around Europe, everybody was so nice. It was the
Mm.
people. He went for the sights, and he left missing the people. And
Yes.
so he made a conscious choice. He was going to spread some of that joy when he got back to Toronto and back to work. And that's when he saw me with my backpack. He was like, I'm going to try and do something for this guy.
Oh,
And, I had a great hour looking around. He showed me around I forget the name of the arena, but, showed me around and then went on our merry way. And it's just people.
yes.
Um,
That's an amazing story. I love that.
yeah, I think it represents Toronto quite well and the people of Toronto.
Sometimes.
Sometimes, oh, I'm sure there's other sides like every major
Yeah.
area.
Yeah,
Um, just like Texans for the vast majority are some of the friendliest people I've ever met. But
I'm sure.
I live in an urban area similar to you. We've got 5 million people. It's
Yeah,
all walks of life.
exactly. But oh,
Yeah.
that's so great. I love that.
Yeah, and when I think of Toronto, I think of that story, and
Uh,
it's been a long time. I can barely picture the guy, but it was such a cool day.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's my little memory
I
of
like
Toronto.
that. Thank you, Alistair.
Of
Yeah.
course. So you did a podcast like many of us have done, but you took it to another level of writing the book. What
Mm.
prompted you to write The People You Meet?
So basically, the background of this story is that in 2010, I was on a trip with a partner, and we were traveling through Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, and China. And he worked in luxury travel and was on kind of a mission to see some hotels and research some routes. And I was along for the ride. So I would say 90% of it was backpacking, 10% was luxury, which was very nice because that
Yeah.
came in handy. Um, but for me, I didn't really have a purpose. I mean, he had a purpose. I did not. I was just the wingman.
Hmm.
And I started to get a little cagey. So after 3 or 4 weeks, and this is something that I've learned about myself as I get older as a traveler, that I can't just travel for the sake of traveling anymore. And I kind of learned this at 35. So I started creating these emails in my head while I was sitting on, 36-hour bus and train rides. And then every week you'd go to an internet cafe because we didn't have phones back then.
Hmm.
So we're going to internet cafes and hotels with computers. And I was sending these emails home, these things that I was like creating in my head. And people started sending them to other people and really enjoyed them. And if I was smart, I should have started a blog because that's when everyone started blogging in 2010, but I didn't. And basically that's where this book came from. So I was in and out of it, deciding if I would publish it or not. And then 15 years later, I just decided to go for it. I had taken the year off in 2023. And then I think sometimes when you start doing some things, other things start happening. Like
Hmm.
your confidence changes or your outlook changes. And I decided to go for it. But I'm kind of glad I waited because things have changed in 15 years, Alasdair, and the things that
Hmm.
we said in 2010, we can't necessarily say them now.
Right. Right. Yep.
So there was a little bit of editing going on there, but it's a really great story. It's very funny. It's very honest. You will feel like you're on the journey with me through these countries. A lot of people who have been to that part of the world feel like they're instantly back there with the sights, the smells, the chaos. Um, and yeah, so you'll feel like you're along for the ride. If you're a traveler or even not a traveler, it's a good armchair story. But yeah, it's very honest and it's a good, fast, fun read.
I love it. And when I had a quick look at your bio before we started recording, and very oddly, for the third time in a week, something has come up that is not my wheelhouse, not my area of knowledge at all, and that is stand-up comedy. And it says on your, I do another podcast, and it relates to television show, um, and I interviewed somebody who was on it, who now does stand up, and I spoke to a fellow writer literally 2 or 3 hours ago, who used to work in a comedy club, and that he has adopted some of the skills that he saw people on stage and uses that to promote his book and his work, gain that confidence, and then I click onto your bio and see that you, as you, and I quote, dipped your smallest toe into the waters of stand up. Um, and I happen to be going to an improv class myself next week. Just a local comedy club is putting one on. And I thought, that all that does is stand to give me some skills I can use in other areas of life. Why not give
Oh,
it a
cool.
shot?
Good
So
for
I'd love
you.
just to hear a little bit about what you've done.
So I haven't done a ton, but I last year, and again, I think this stems from, I took a year off in 2023 and then yeah, you just kind of
Hmm.
start doing things. So last year I signed up. Actually, this truth is that I was taking a project management course and it was so boring the very first night that I started Googling like fun things to do. And I found this course and it was like public speaking through stand-up comedy. I dropped out of my project management course and I went to this. So I went to this thing for 8 weeks and I learned like how to pitch potential storylines. I learned how to like create 8 minutes worth of material and off I went and I performed at a club and I absolutely loved it. So you're going to have a great time. If you like telling stories and you have material and if you've been observing the world around you, it's a really amazing thing to do. It's not as easy as it looks. These like comedians make it look so easy. It is not.
Right.
But I loved it. I would do it again for sure, but the book sort of happened right after that. So there you go.
Yeah, I'm excited. Like I said, I've got no aspirations of being a stand-up comedian. It's more learning the skill set. As you said, you could use it to pitch storylines, and I'm in
Hmm.
education. There's things
Hmm.
I can do with this skill set if I'm able to acquire it. So I'm quite excited.
Good for you. Yeah, you'll love
Thank
it.
you. Now, as we kind of come around the bend here to the home stretch, I've always got three questions that I like to ask my guests, having not told them what they are beforehand. The first one for you is how has success and your definition of it changed over the years?
Oh, that's a very good question because I struggle with that word. Um, I think as I get older, I'm 50 now, almost 51. I think it's still being able to do these things that I like to do. I think it's having a body that I can still go on hiking trips with and cycling, and I'm still able to do that. I think that's a success because you look around, not everyone can do that. I think that just living in a place, in a country, in a city that enables you to try whatever you want to do, like stand-up comedy, like writing a book.
Hmm.
I feel like I am very lucky in that I can keep sort of trying these things and take kind of these risks, and the sun will still come up tomorrow. Um, yeah, and just I think once you start doing these sorts of things, and I'm sure you know this with your podcast, is the domino effect of people that you meet and opportunities that come your way. It's not always what, as a little girl, this is probably not the life that I dreamt up for myself, but it has, like, once you kind of get the ball rolling in one area, new things start opening up to you that you never really dreamed would happen. So I would say my version of success is different and changing all the time, and there's still things I'm striving for, but I think we learn that, if you really want to do something, it may not look like what you thought it would look like, but a different avenue will reveal itself to take you in that way anyway.
I love that. Beautifully, beautifully said.
Hmm.
If you could choose just one movie or book that you would say has had a profound impact on your life, could you choose one?
I don't know if there's one, but when I went to Jordan, I read this book called, I think it's called Being Married to a Bedouin or something like that.
Hmm.
And it's not super well written, but it's a true story about this woman who, when she was in her early 20s, and this was back in the 70s, went backpacking around the Middle East. And it's like, that's a pretty scary thing to do in
Hmm.
that time, right? As a woman. And ended up meeting this man in Jordan and marrying him and living in a cave for like a very long time and raising three kids. And that story has always stuck with me in terms of someone being very brave in choosing this culture over her own. I think she was from New Zealand and went back to New Zealand at one point and, had all the creature comfort she could possibly
Hmm.
have, but was like, I don't want that. I want this life of the unknown and, in a very different culture. That story always stays with me. And I often think about this. And when I went to Jordan, I got to meet her son because he's around, Petra. And yeah, I love that. I love that risk, that's a huge leap from one culture to another. I mean, some of the moves that we make are not so different, but
Right.
this is very different.
That's a huge move. That sounds like a fascinating read.
You should read it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll look that up.
Married to a
The
Bedouin. Yeah.
Married to a Bedouin. I'm writing that down now. And my last question for you is, if you could go hiking for 10 miles with anybody, this could be somebody you know, somebody you don't know, dead, alive, somebody from history, somebody from the present day, who would you like to go hiking for 10 miles with and have that one-on-one time to talk?
Alanis Morissette, because I love her.
She's amazing. Yeah, that might be the most Canadian answer ever.
Yeah, she's very smart and she's very insightful and she's very funny. So it would
Yes.
be her.
I love it. That would be a fascinating 10 miles. There be
Oh,
absolutely no doubt.
yeah, I could die after that. There would be nothing left to do for me.
That would be it. That would
That would
be
be
it.
it.
Well, if people want to get hold of you, find you online, ask you any questions, where can they find you?
The best place is on Instagram. So that is at fly_travel_media. My book is on Amazon, The People You Meet by Melissa Rodway. I have a website. I don't update it a lot, but there's all my podcasts are there. So that's flyrodway.com. And I think those are the three best places.
Wonderful. Well, Melissa Rodway, thank you so much for spending this time with me this evening. It's been wonderful.
Thank you, Alasdair. I really enjoyed it. Appreciate it.
You got it. Thank you again to this week's guest, and I hope today's episode was as enjoyable for you as it was for me, and perhaps even inspired your next adventure. If you did enjoy the show, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, or follow us wherever you get your podcasts. You can find more information at theoutdoorseyeducator.com or follow us on Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook. Until next time, thank you so much for listening to the Outdoorsy Educator podcast.